Mosaic Cycles has been making beautiful titanium bicycles since 2009. I'm here in the shop with founder Aaron Barcheck and Master of Ceremonies Mark Currie, who are going to walk us through how these bikes come to be from start to finish. So for those of you not familiar, Mosaic has won a number of awards at the Handmade Bike Show over the years. Aaron, you got your start working for Dean, another titanium maker, back in the day.
That's right. I started building frames around 2002. It's about my 20th year of doing this. But at this point, there's about 9 of us here in the production and sales staff at Mosaic, making bikes all the time. So it's grown quite a bit since its initial inception of just me.
For a while you were sending bikes to Spectrum to paint. Now Spectrum is part of, is it even still called Spectrum?
Yeah, we have a paint shop. We still call it Spectrum Paint and Powder Works. We've been painting in-house now for 8 years. That was about 8 years ago that we acquired the brand, and we no longer do any powder coating, but we still do a lot of wet coat painting on the Mosaic line, and a few every now and then direct consumer paint jobs, and just fun things that kind of come our way in the industry. Yeah.
Okay, enough yapping.
Yeah,
Let's
get to it.
Let's
man.
get
I'll take
to
you
it
around the shop and show you what's up.
So, Mark, where does the process start when someone has decided they want a custom Mosaic bike? When I came in just now, you were speaking to Brennan and Wirtz about a new bicycle. How does the process start?
It was indeed. So we work with a handful of dealers, or more than a handful, all across the world at this point. So they are truly who sells for us. So we build almost everything we do completely to order from the ground up for a specific individual. So if you were to visit one of our dealers, and you agree that you're going to get a Mosaic, the next step is to get that fit done. From that fit, they can then send us a whole stack of data that we can use to develop a custom frame draft, which is what we see here. So from that fit, we can come up with things like someone's saddle height, their reach to a handlebar, how much below the saddle a handlebar should sit, and essentially come up with a few coordinates so that we can make that bike fit exactly perfectly. And then beyond that, decide how the person wants it to ride too.
So after you've got the order in, determine what is going to be built, then what?
Yeah, so we're standing in the area of the shop we call the prep area, where as orders come in, we kind of pick all the appropriate materials for that individual customer's bike. So kind of what you see around us is head tubes and seat tubes and sub-assemblies of chainstays for each model that we make, very particular to each model, whether that be disc road, caliper road, gravel, all road, mountain bike. So we have a lot of this stuff kind of ready and waiting. And we kind of pick these individual ingredients and then put them in an assembly to go over to the frame building portion.
So I'm seeing head tubes listed in 5 mil increments.
Yeah.
Chainstays are, in addition to different lengths, are there different tubing thicknesses?
It's mostly per model. So for instance, like this is a road disc chainstay subassembly right here. And so you notice it's been like cut up and bent. It's got a little kick to it. And then we've welded on the dropouts and the flat mount portion and given it a little squish. And so now this can be cut at any particular chainstay length that you would want on your road bike. So this will be used on our RT1 model and our RT2 model. And whether it's 410, 412, 415, God forbid 418.
Not that
long chainstays. Does anybody do that anymore?
Giving it a little squish, that's the technical term for bending this for more tire clearance?
Correct, yep. And those are going to vary from model to model. So you'll notice this subassembly is quite different than our gravel subassembly.
Yeah.
It's got quite a different design to the bending and quite a different design to the squish, as you called it. Some similar.
Squish.
I did call it
squish.
It a little That's squish. True. That's a big squish. This is a little squish. And some of the components are the same. Like it's the same dropout. It's the same flat mount boss. It's a similar material. And then.
Can I ask you how you squish?
Oh, that's proprietary.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't see that.
Okay.
Seat stays behind us too. We do a lot of variance in the wall thicknesses and design of the seat stays because it really does add quite a bit of ride characteristic from like road to all road to gravel. So you'll see something like our 2-level bike, our GT2 is over here. It's like what's on all those Pros Closet bikes. Cool bend,
Yeah.
paired up very nicely.
Yeah.
Versus some of the seat stays that we put on some of our larger bikes. Like that's quite a bit bigger tube diameter. So stiffer, not as stiff. I think we call that compliance, right? Fancy. So something for everybody though, and that's part of the frame design, where you are mixing and matching frames for tubes for our made-to-order bikes, depending on rider weight and like what you want that frame to actually feel like and perform like.
What's next?
Next, we go over to the frame fabrication portion of the shop. I'll take you over there. Let's go.
Now we got a frame and a jig.
That's right. So we're over in the frame building, frame production portion of the Mosaic shop. And this is where we take each individual tube set that we've picked over in prep and we turn it into a frame. So behind us you'll see any number of machines that we use for different pieces of that process. Some machines just cut front triangles, some just do chain stays, and some do seat stays. What you see in front of us is the frame fixture, a very important instrumental piece of the process, and it holds the tubes in place. It's like a very complex way to just hold a bunch of tubes in a very precise spot. And so it's very dynamic, so it allows us to take that specific geometry for that specific customer's bike and set the head angles, for instance. So you got a head angle measurement, you got a seat tube angle measurement, you have a chainstay drop and length measurement, and you can notice that it's just kind of like holding these tubes in place. I can even just take them out. So we've used our machinery, I think I can take it out, to make these cuts. We call them miters. And that will be precisely cut to the individual length for this exact bike. So most of what we do that comes to the shop is made to order. So there's really not going to be another bike quite like this one ever.
So once you've got them in the frame jig, then what?
Which is no small feat. You know, it takes quite a bit of time. Don't gloss over it too much.
Yeah.
Once it gets to this portion, once the tubes are all cut to length, they get cleaned up. They get dropped into an ultrasonic cleaner, which cleans them down to like a very molecular level. And then we take it over to the fuse welding area, where the tubes will be root welded in the fixture. So all the tubes will be, one tube will get welded to the other tube.
Define root welding.
Okay, so root welding is part of our essentially two-stage process of welding. You have root welding, or fuse welding, some people call it, and then you have finish welding. Finish welding is the stack of dimes that everybody geeks out on and loves to talk about, and that's where you see that nice, finely defined pulses of weld rod stacked on top of each other. Root welding, we do the root welding in the fixture where one tube is just melted or fused onto the other tube. This allows us to get like a really cold fusion of the entire frame while keeping it in really good alignment.
Whoa, what is this? No, seriously, what is this?
This is a mill, and this is part of our frame production. This mill just cuts front triangles, so it cuts top tubes and down tubes and seat tubes every now and then. And what you're looking at is a device right here that holds a tube in place. You stick a tube in here, clamp it down, and in some cases it'll even keep, this fixture will keep it square if you're doing two cuts. There's your length and there's your angle. So you can manipulate it quite a bit. And then here you see a hole saw. So when we turn that hole saw on, we can have the machine cut that miter that I showed you in the fixture. And we can be very modular in what size tube it cuts and what angle it's cutting at. So that's how the front ends gets cut. And then if you walk over here, we have another bit cutting machine. This one is dedicated for just chain stays. And we have this really cool CNC actuated mill that we don't use for much other than moving like 1/1000th of an inch at a time, cutting different chainstay lengths. So this fixture will hold a drive and a non-drive chainstay at the same time, and you have an adjustment back here for your chainstay length. See that? So there you go, like adventure gravel, race road, all road, right? Something like that. And everybody really enjoys this interface because it looks very old school.
It does. It is old school.
It is. It is super. It needs a little clean. It's been getting a lot of use.
So this is your French fry deep fryer.
This is the French fry machine. This is where all the French fries get made at Mosaic Cycles. Russet potatoes. We like to have a nice mushy inside,
crispy exterior.
Now this is our ultrasonic cleaner. So it looks like you're gonna do French fries because it has this really cool basket on the inside. And there's a cleaning solution in here that all of our titanium parts get put in and cleaned. So this is our finished welding station. We got Art in here banging out some finished welds. So he's got the frame back purging with that inert gas argon. You can see, don't look at the light too much. It's not good for you. And he's using a torch in one hand and a filler rod in the other hand to go through every miter on the frame and build that miter back up to a nice solid wall thickness that'll make like a really structurally sound weld. And so you can kind of hear the gas running a little bit. You can hear that little hiss. So that's shooting out the argon at the torch. And then you can see his the purge line connected to the head tube at this point. And so that has argon flowing into the frame, filling up the frame from the inside. TIG, it's all TIG welding. I guess we should mention that. TIG welding. Tungsten inert gas is what that acronym stands for. Tungsten's the electrode that you use to actually create the heat, and the inert gas portion of that is argon. So you're replacing all of the oxygen in a very localized environment with argon. Argon's inert gas. It doesn't allow the metal to oxidize because if it does oxidize, it becomes titanium oxide, which has a much more brittle characteristic to it. So it's a weaker weld essentially. So you need it to be really clean and oxygenless.
So now we're in the second segment of Mosaic. When I first came here, this was Mosaic. Now you've divided the shop into two parts.
That's right. We're in we call it the finish shop.
Okay.
Because we do a lot of painting here, but we also do some non-painting, just raw etching. And so once the frames are completely built, they've been welded and QC'd and aligned and all that stuff, they come over here and they get their beautiful finish work. The first stop for our finishing is the media blasting room. So we have a couple different media blasters used for different portions of the process. We're standing in front of one right now that we use for etching, that if you see any of our non-painted frames with just, there's no decals on them, they're etched. And this machine allows us to do that, kind of like puts like a darkish looking logo on the frame. It's also what we use to etch the frames prior to paint. So everything that gets painted gets a tooth on it essentially, like a nice gritty area that has more surface area for the primer to really cling to. Your paint sticking on your frame is our highest priority. The machine behind us right here is filled up with a glass media. And that's what gives the titanium what we call a satin look. It's like that really fine, shiny, metallic, almost metallic look. And so any raw frame is going to get that as a base.
So this is blasted with glass. What is doing the blasting?
This is a garnet. It's similar to an aluminum oxide. It's like a very gritty, almost, I always described it as like sandpaper without the back, just like shot out of a gun. So that's stage one. Stage two, layout. All right, so here we are in the layout area of the paint shop, finish shop. And you'll notice Justin's working on a little layout here. This is where all the logos get applied.
Okay.
So we'll, for every layout that Mosaic has, we have all the artwork kind of dialed up and ready to go, size specifically for each frame. And they get printed out on a plotter that's cut out of vinyl. And the vinyl gets laid down on the frame. And then if you're etching it, you're using the media blasters like we showed you in the media blaster room. If you're painting it, you're actually shooting the paint over those stencils to create those logos. And then when you peel them up, you're left with the logo. Lots of detail. Yeah, lots of detail going, especially into the paisley that Justin's putting down on the fork right now.
Okay, I'm slow. You got to walk me through it.
So
What did you start with? What
My
was
base color would have been this white,
Yes.
and then I laid this graphic, the paisley graphic on the outside
Yes.
to retain that white, and then sprayed the pink.
So
I'm
white
going
first,
about it
pink
kind of
second,
in a
then
hard
black.
way is what I'm trying
Yeah.
to say, because the black doesn't lend itself well to being covered up
Sure.
by white.
That makes sense.
Black likes to go over pink,
Yeah.
but pink doesn't like to go over black. Pink is a very
It's a rock, paper, scissors
transparent
thing.
color.
going
Yeah,
on.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot of strategy to how you achieve any given layout or design based on just the colors that you shoot. We'll show you the paint room here in a sec. They're bikes too, so weight is always
Right.
a part of the conversation. We're trying to lay down the least amount of paint that you have to achieve the result you want. Close that. Everybody loves paint. Is anybody in there? Nope. Yeah.
Burritoville.
Okay. So this is our paint room. It's a nice fireproof room where all of our paints and solvents are kept. We do have a standard line of colors. It's like 20 colors. But part of the Mosaic experience has just been getting your color personalized. So we do tons of custom colors. We get people who are seeing cars on the road and they want that automotive color. And we do a fair amount of just custom matching as well. So over the years, we've just gathered these colors that we like. Every time we make one that's cool, we just kind of keep it in our what we call our extended line. And they just kind of keep popping up. And when somebody wants something unique, we're like, oh, we got this. It's probably hanging out still. We have specific guns that we use. Yeah, stick them up. Specific guns that we use for clear coating and matte, clear coating and gloss. We have special guns that are designed to be primer guns, special guns that are designed to just shoot toner. We even have, my favorite gun is the Flake King, a gun specifically to shoot sparkle. So that like it's coming out. You see it?
So yeah, it's like your bass
Yeah,
boat.
so this is your bass boat gun right here. Sometimes the flake is so large that it won't shoot through a paint gun, so you have to shoot it on,
The Flake King.
they call it dry flake application. The Flake King. Shout out Flake King. Get in here. Oh yeah. If this could be turned into a sound booth,
Yeah.
we could podcast in here. It'd be so cool.
Hello.
No, this is not a podcasting room. This is the paint booth at Spectrum. And this is where all the wet coat painting happens.
Hey, Evan Fry.
You know that guy?
Oh, that guy.
Yeah, it's almost done.
Beautiful bike, Evan.
Shout out Evan Fry. That's our overland layout. Very special colorway for Evan. This is an automotive paint booth. And it's essentially kind of like a big clean room that has airflow going through it. So when it turns on, it brings in outside air and it heats it up to a specific temperature that we have it set at in the winter and flows it through. So whenever you're spraying anything in here, all the particulate that doesn't land on the frame gets sucked out the back. We have it kind of split down the middle so two people can paint at the same time for efficiency. And you'll notice like some air dryers on the wall and some pressure gauges, and the air has to be like super dry and super clean. You can't have junk in your air when you're painting. And so we have like a really nice air system that we put in to keep everything nice and clean. I think Kristen is doing a splatter paint job right now because she's made this awesome sample. Look at that.
Yeah.
What do you think? Is that gonna work?
That's going to work. I think that one's going to go.
Yeah, what is that? Green, black, and looks like a gold. So the last stage of the paint process, once it's been primed and colored and masked again and masked again and clear coated, it comes over to the buffing area where any tiny little imperfection like a nib, maybe a little piece of dust landed on it, gets sanded out and buffed out and made immaculate. Face everything nice and flush so that your headset can just go in. And then we'll give it a force cure. So we'll throw it into our warming cabinet so that the paint kind of flashes off. And when we send it to you, it's not soft because we want it to be as hardened as we can get it before we send it out. Here we are. This is kind of the last stop on the whole process of getting a Mosiac out. The frame has gone through production. It's been painted and finished. You notice it's had all the the masks removed to reveal the logo. This is one of our knockout logos. And we're in the assembly and shipping portion. So the frame goes through a final check to make sure all the finish spec was done correctly and that it's up to quality standards. And we'll put all the bits on it, like your through axles and your hanger and your seat collar. We'll press in a headset. We'll give it one last final check, and then we'll box it up. Almost everything we do is frame sets.
Okay.
So the Mosaic partners, all of our IBDs, they're the ones who are speccing the frame out with components that the customer wants based on the model and what their customer wants, and usually their area and just like what they like. And
Sure.
they're also building it up and servicing that bike for a lifetime of it, hopefully. So they do a really good job of that, and we do a really good job of what we do is producing frames. So it's like a great kind of hand-in-hand partnership. Sure. But there's your Frigis. This one's a little too small for you, but what do you think? You look good on you.
Beautiful. Thanks.
Yeah, appreciate it. That's right. Done. And that's a wrap.
Yeah.
Give me that back.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, you're more like this size right here. I think this is probably more of your speed. XLR's mountain bike.
Yeah, maybe a little big, but yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah. Nice. Well, that was great. Thanks for the tour.
Yeah, you're welcome. Come back anytime. Next time we'll see you on bikes.